Right, I've got another very good upgrade you can do on the Chinese mini lathe. An easy upgrade that is very effective and improves the rigidity of the lathe, and it's the addition of these two brass locking screws for the compound slide. Now I found that after I did this modification and the upgrade on the saddle, which I've shown in another video, that it totally transformed this lathe. And you can just leave the 3 grub screws set on the gib strip, and then whenever you want to lock the compound slide, you just nip those up lightly. You don't have to do them up tightly at all, and that makes the compound slide rock solid, takes out all the movement, and it's really good for when you're doing parting off, milling and other operations on the lathe. In fact, I was so pleased with the results that I did the same upgrade on my Myford lathe. So it's a very easy modification to do, but you must take care, and the 2 things to really watch for is that you get the holes all in line, and that the threading is nice and square in the side. The slide is cast iron, and therefore it's easy to drill and tap. Mine is already done, obviously, but I shall just show you how I marked mine up, ready for drilling. I use a permanent marker on the side like that, and then I used my scriber tool set to the centre of the existing holes and marked all the way down like that. Then between the middle hole and the back hole, in the centre of that, centre punch, and the same at the front. And these threads that are already in this slide are 4mm. So when you do it on the bench drill, and that's if you haven't got a milling machine, I always use a centre drill first to get the hole dead accurate on the punch hole, and then I use a pilot drill, which is slightly smaller than the core diameter of the thread, and then the thread drill core diameter, which is 3.3mm, and obviously drill right through. Now with a job like this, I would always use some sort of guide to get the screw tapping dead straight. And I've shown in one of my other videos that you can actually use the bench drill to do the drilling, and then put the tap in the chuck of the bench drill, and without any power you can actually bring the chuck down and wind it round by hand a couple of times, or a few times, until you've got a few threads in the hole, and then take it off and put it in a vise and finish the tap right the way through. Another good method of getting screw tapping nice and straight and square in the work is to use one of these tools. It's got a collet in there, which takes various different size taps, and you do that one up with a spanner. Then it goes down in the guide like that, and there's 2 flats, one either side, which you place on the work, and you can actually sight through the cutout in the side of this tool to line it up on the hole, and then you wind the tap in and do the threading like that. And it's a very good tool, good quality, and I bought mine from a company called Chronos, and they're not very expensive to buy. Also, this tool has a V on the underside there, so you can actually put it onto bar or the diameter of a workpiece and do the tapping like that and get it nice and square. So it's a great tool and well worth having. So on reassembly of the compound slide, just put the 3 grub screws in. Coming through the other side, the gib strip can only go in one way, and it will fall onto the grub screws. They will locate in the holes when it's in its correct position. You can see that it won't fall forward, and you know that's right. I'd just like to say that some time ago I put a brass gib strip in here, but I did have no ends of problems with it for some reason, so I put the steel one back in, and that one runs much smoother. And I also changed the grub screws for stainless steel ones. So I put it on the lathe now. But I haven't put the brass ones in yet because there's a ball bearing to go down in those holes. So firstly I put the compound slide on and wind it on fully, and then adjust the grub screw ones up to get the gib strip at its correct tension, and then I put the ball bearing in with the brass screws. So I've adjusted the screws on the gib strip. I always start with the middle one there and nip it up, and then just back it off very slightly, and then lock the lock nut up, and the same with either side. And I find that that is nice and solid, but it's not overly tight, and that's how you want it, just like that. Next I put a 3mm ball bearing into the new threaded holes. Followed by the brass screw, and I've cut mine so that there's about 9mm of thread on it. Over time, when you're using the slide, after a while the ball bearing beds into the end of the brass screw and keeps it nice and central. So that's the job done, and like I say, it's only a light nip up on the gib strip and it becomes rock solid. And if you do this upgrade, I think you'll be very pleased with it.